like, work from home in the new normal was the first webinar. Then there were a lot of webinars by Mr. Sachin Sharma on inculcating the value system, invisible leadership, emotional intelligence, a lot of webinars. Today we are having on Wage Code. We have already done, I think 3 or 4 times we have done on Wage Code. So different, learning and development culture, we have been regularly doing the webinars. Our next webinar is going to be on March 20th. You can get the registration link in the chat box. And this is again a very beautiful topic, ramping up the hiring needs. And the takeaways are also mentioned in this slide. Please, those who want to register for this webinar, please go in the chat box, go at the registration link and register for yourself. Registrations are still open for next 1 or 2 days and then we'll close. Our next vertical is HR forum, wherein a participant, in case, again, the link is at the chat box. Anybody wants to know anything related to HR, anybody has a problem, anything has a point to know, they can just mention the link there, they can mention their query there, and somebody from our backend team will respond to your query. Then coming to our social media presence, we are very, our social media team is very active. They are on their toes all the day. We have 20,000 plus members at our forum. We have 23 WhatsApp groups, which have 2,500 plus members. We have our Facebook page where 36,300 plus members are there. Our website has 37,000 plus subscribers. Our YouTube channel has 2,700 plus subscribers. Instagram has 3,600 plus subscribers. LinkedIn, already a huge community, 2,800 plus followers, and members in our group are 1,000 plus members. Twitter, we are just beginning and our team is working. It has 130 plus followers. So this is our, social media presence. Our fourth vertical is HR string meets. Before COVID, we used to do offline meets. Every month we used to have a topic, we used to have a panel discussion and a lot of people from HR fraternity. 19 string meets we have already done and it is still continuing. Now April, because things are coming back to normal, I think 20th spring meets is going to happen on 3rd of April. The registration link would definitely be there in the chat box. Please go to that. And here we are coming up again on an eminent topic, HR dashboards. So the takeaways from the panel discussion, the string meets can always be taken when you register at the string meets event. Now our fifth vertical, that's a very special vertical, YouTube channel. It is our YouTube team works day and night working on video series on various topics. Now, like employee engagement, learning and development, there are a lot of emotional intelligence. There are a lot of subjects and topics on which our YouTube team invites the experts and we follow that. So it's a very eminent, again, the YouTube channel would be there at the chat box link. Please go through that, those who want. Now coming to another, the next vertical, this is assessments and certifications. So far, we have proudly done 15 online assessments and certification on various topics. And our next assessment is, going to happen on 27th of March. Again, the registration link will be in the chat box, those who want to take up. The topic is again for certified talent acquisition professionals and talent acquisition and recruitment. So those who want to undergo this assessment, please register at the chat box. You will get all the details and somebody from our team will get back to you. Coming to our next vertical, which is HR awards. HR Success Talk has successfully done 3 awards and we have proudly launched our 4th awards, that is the Excellence Awards. This time we have 10 categories. Every category will have 5 winners. So in total, 50 winners would be there. The registration link, those who want to apply, can take up the link from the chat box and can apply. Now this time we have broadly categorized the awards under 2 verticals. One is under 35 and the above is 15 plus years of experience. So please identify your category and apply. Maybe any one of you can be one of the winners. Moving to our next vertical, that is the blogs and website. We have a blogger team who have already written 180 plus blogs on our website. You can go through www.hrsuccesstalk.com and see our blogs vertical, and a lot of blogs are already there. And then coming to our next vertical, which is the workshop. HR Success Talk and Young Minds are jointly doing the workshops. Our next upcoming workshop is Certified HR Analytics. The facilitator for the workshop would be Ms. Harini Srinivasan. She's an international speaker and she'll be taking. So the registrations are open for this workshop. And those who want to register for this workshop, please find the link at the chat box and somebody from the team will come back to you. Now let me introduce you to the person who has channelized all these things and made this process so smooth for all of us. He is Mr. Govind Singh Negi, the founder of HR Success Talk. He is Senior Director, Talent Management and Delivery Center Head, Three Pillar Global Services. He is a very passionate person. He, besides this, runs the NGO Amruta Devi Foundation, which is for skilling of women and upskilling of women, and they are already doing a lot in Uttarakhand. So these are his passion besides his regular job. Meet our advisors of HR Success Talk because of their hand-holding, because of their continuous brainstorming. We regularly need inputs, how to make this community better, how to serve the fraternity better. In the end, but not the least, meet our team who is behind all these verticals, our core team, our advisors, our different team members, and they are the people behind the successful HR Success Talk community. Thank you so much, Nirpesh, for sharing this. The last one, if anybody wants to volunteer, HR Success Talk entirely works on volunteering basis. If you want to be a part of HR Success Talk to learn, to give back to the society under any of the verticals, the link is there at the chat box. Please put yourself, show your interest so that somebody from our team, our HR team would definitely get in touch with you. And why to become a volunteer? There are a lot of key takeaways. There are a lot of learnings for yourself. I feel volunteering comes straight from the heart if money is not involved. If you have a zeal to help others, if you are willing to invest some time, maybe your weekends only, we are okay. If you are eager to learn, if you are eager to give back to the society, this is the right platform for you. Please join in and be a part of this huge community. In case you have any questions, in case you have any feedback, please write to us at info@hrsuccesstalk.com. Thank you so much, Nirpesh, for taking us through this wonderful introduction. Now coming to our today's topic, decoding the new wage and new wage code. Let me introduce our eminent speaker of the day, and he is none other than Mr. M. Radhakrishnan Murthy. Welcome you, sir. He is practicing in the areas of industrial and labor law and employment corporate legal matters as well. He is an advocate in the High Court. Oh, sorry. He is an advocate in the High Court of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Former regional board governing body member of ESI, former member of Andhra Pradesh Minimum Wages Board, Rationalization Committee representing the employers. Also, sir is a guest faculty with many, many institutions. We welcome you today, sir. A lot to speak about you. I've just touched upon your introduction. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your knowledge with our participants. Coming to our moderator for the day, he is our founder, Mr. Govind Singh Negi. I have already given a brief introduction. He brings with him 20 plus years of rich industry experience. He is Senior Director, Talent Management and Delivery Center Head for Three Pillar Global Services. Very passionate about his work profession. He runs his platform called NGO called Amruta Devi Foundation, which is a charitable trust. It is in the name of his mother that works for child education and women empowerment in Uttarakhand. He was recently awarded as Top HR India Tech Minds in 2018. And I think, Govind, I have already taken a lot of time. Over to you so that the audience can have best of today's session. Over to you.
Thank you, Shefali. And I think thanks for such a wonderful kickoff, taking us through. I know that you had a short time, but you did a pretty good job out there. I hope that all the audience have got a good insight of what this community is all about. And also welcome, Mr. Murthy. It is always my honor to have this conversation with you. More than a moderator, I look like there's gonna be a conversation. This is a topic which is in talks a lot nowadays, irrespective of the industry you are. I belong to IT industry. Even people in IT industry are talking a lot about this change which is gonna happen in our law related to employment. I think it's a great opportunity for us today to have this conversation and listen from experts like you who has always been in the center of these conversations. And I would say that, and maybe let me share my screen and kind of give the insight to people. I would say that when in the IT industry, many of the changes, and I think IT industry from a best practices perspective, I've always used the labor laws and try to give more to people. But there are a lot of laws which are impacting IT industry here, but also other industries. So I think we're going to capture every aspect of different industry, how that will look like. Some of the things which we might get at the end of this session today is what is the impact it's going to have on our employees? What is the impact it is going to have on us as an employer? And many people here are from HR fraternity and they are interested to know both the aspects. Just to make sure that we are laying down the rules properly, first of all, my request to everybody is to keep yourself on mute because a small disturbance from the background just ruin the momentum the way we are going. Second, during this whole presentation, we will be taking some pauses. We will be taking some questions from the audience. So I would request all of you to keep asking your questions over the chat box. If your question is not already answered, we will try to take it up with Mr. Murthy and take his opinion on that. Another one is that today we are going to focus only on the wage code. So try to limit your questions to that only, because we cannot cover so many things in a small span of time. I think enough has already been said about Mr. Murthy, but if you wanted to know a little bit more, here is a slide on what he does and what kind of expertise he brings on the table. And please feel free to ask as many as questions you have in your mind to clear our doubts. I think that's a great opportunity for all of us. With that said, over to you, sir. Let's have this presentation and I will moderate from a question perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Govind. Thank you for HR Success Team. And good morning to all of you. And today we are going to deal with this labor code and wage code out of the new labor codes. This is the thing. And this wage code is replacement of existing labor enactments and its procedural aspect effective date of applicability. Many say that from April 1st, it is doubtful because the central government has notified its rules, draft rules, and rules also are finalized, and final rules also have come. And they also asked the state government to draft the state government rules, and they are in the process. Until unless completion of the rules framing by the state government and the procedures and modalities, only then the date of implementation would be notified. Only the date of implementation to be notified. This is the thing about it. Now we deal with in detail about this wage code. Next slide, Mr. Govind. And this wage code consists of 4 codes. These new codes are the 4: code on wages, code on industrial relations, code on social security and welfare, code on occupational and safety health working conditions. And this has been summarized to these 4 codes, and several acts are subsumed in these codes. And now today's topic is we are going to deal with this wage code. This wage code consists of the Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act, Equal Remuneration Act. These 4 acts which are at present, which are in vogue, are being subsumed in the new code. In the new wage code, they are now subsumed in the new wage code. Next. Now, firstly, we will be dealing with this out of these 4 acts, existing acts which are subsumed now in the wage code. First, we will be dealing with the payment of wages. Next. Yes, sir. Now, the code provides essential elements relating to wage equal remuneration for every gender, payment of wages, and bonus. The code also deals with the definition of worker and employee. And one thing that is to be noticed is so far the definition of worker is only there in the labor enactments. The definition of employee is not there. Now the definition of employee has been incorporated in the new wage code that has to be taken. Under this new definition, earlier the Wage Payment of Wages Act was applicable only to the limited employees who are drawing up to 24,000 or plus PDS on. Now it is applicable to all employees. It is applicable to all employees, right from the class 4 employee, right from the attender, right from the associate, right from the thing to the vice president. One and all in the organization are covered under this new wage code. That is the difference between earlier the existing Payment of Wages Act, because the new wage code is yet to come into force, though it has been finalized. and the implementation date to be notified. This is the main thing that is to be noted. And Equal Remuneration Act also is there at present, and this is going to be a bit challengeable to mostly the manufacturing organizations, not that of the ITES that doesn't arise in this Equal Remuneration Act, because if any employee, two employees doing two similar work should be paid on par, and there should not be any anomalies between the payment of these two employees. That is the one thing. Previous slide, Mr. Govind. Yes, please. Previous slide. Yes, yes. And the other change that has been brought in the new wage code is that inspectors, earlier inspectors, the enforcement department are only meant for enforcement, conducting inspection, audit, so on and so forth. Now the inspector is also a facilitator to guide in respect of implementation. Whatever points directly instead of going for prosecution and other things, they should be able to guide the employer in respect of and acts as a facilitator in sort of in respect of enforcement of the act. And this act applicable, this code, labor code is applicable to all establishments without any threshold limit. Like you see, bonus, payment of gratuity, there's the threshold. But when it comes to the wage code, it is applicable to all the things. And the minimum wage, without any minimum wage ceiling of number of employees, except or the payment of bonus under the chapter. Yes, out of these 4 acts which are subsumed now under the new wage code, except the payment of bonus, the minimum threshold limit is now removed, and the maximum number is also not there anything. And the new wage code applies to all category of employees. Next slide. So here is the thing that that is to be noticed and that is to be noted. That is to be noted, particularly there's a lot of ambiguity in respect of the definition. Several articles, news items are coming from time to time that it is going to reduce the take-home pay and they will have an impact on the employee and it is going to increase the burden of the employer in respect of various statutory contributions because of the revised change. Earlier, the thing is that the bifurcation of wage has not been defined. So what is a wage, what is a basic wage is defined under the acts. So what percentage of the total wage should be the basic wage is not there in none of the acts. Only in the PF Act what it says is that the basic once fixed cannot be reduced. But none of the acts says that this much should be the HRA, this much percentage out of the total wage should be the HRA, this much percentage out of the total wage should be the basic. There is no such specification. Now what you got to note is under the new wage code, they said irrespective of the nomenclature, whatever you call in respect of the payments that are being paid to employee, be it a special allowance, be it a conveyance allowance, be it a traveling allowance, be it a nearness allowance, or be it a reimbursement or whatever it is. From out of the total payment that is made, 50% of the total wage shall be treated as basic wage. And even if you fix it, that 30% basic and remaining 70% allowances, but the residual portion of this above 50 of the allowances, that is 20%, shall be treated as basic. So the basic should be a minimum 50% out of the gross wage. It should not be less than 50%. And even if you put less than 50%, for the purpose of contributions, for the purpose of payments, for the purpose of payment of terminal benefits or severance benefits, 50% of the gross wage shall be treated as the basic wage. You know where all the basic wage plays role. The basic wage plays role in respect of the payment of PF. The basic wage plays role in respect of payment of bonus. The basic wage also plays its role in respect of payment of gratuity, so on and so forth. All these factors are there. So that has to be looked into. Next slide. Now, this is what I have explained, that it should be paid under the heads of basic wage, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance. This means that the industry should hereafter get prepared to pay higher amount of contribution towards EPF and higher gratuity amount. This is what I have already explained to you. And there is another thing which to be noted. I will deal when the topic of minimum wages act comes. Next slide. You see, it is a case study that we are giving it to you and we are presenting it to you that there is a lot of myth about this definition of wage, myth about the cost to the company, CTC, myth about the take-home pay. There are so many myths about all these aspects. Here is a case study that is given. Suppose if the basic is 30,000, assuming that 30% of the salary, employee PF is 3,600, employer PF is 3,600, total PF is 7,200, take home pay is 92,800. This is what has been explained, and out of this, employee's contribution has been taken. But in this, the gratuity and other things are not loaded. It is a simple calculation. Only the PF contribution has been taken. Now coming to the myth in respect of gratuity and the bonus has not been stated. The present, this is the correct. And after the change, basic should be minimum 50,000. That is from out of 1 lakh salary. Say for example, the 50% of 1 lakh becomes 50,000. The PF contribution will increase from 3,600 to the 6,000, and employer contribution also increases from 3,600 to 600, and total PF is 12, and it comes to 88. It is only the PF that is taken, and the impact of gratuity payment and the bonus payment is a different aspect altogether. And other benefits that has been dealt over here, gratuity payout will increase, more contribution to be 80cc per tax rebate, that is because of the HRE and other things, and more savings through PF with 8.5% interest rate. These are the benefits, consequential benefits and cascading impact. Retirement corpus will increase. And on one hand, where there is a minus, on the other hand, there is also plus. Advantage and disadvantage both are involved in this present situation. And now I will further go. That needs you please concentrate on this and make note of it. Why I am saying is that presently after the change, basic is 50,000. First, one thing to be noted as per the EPF and MP Act, as per the present definition that is in vogue at the moment, that is to be looked into is any employee whose basic wage is more than 15,000 rupees, whose basic wage is more than 15,000 rupees, there is no obligation on the part of the employer to contribute PF over and above 15,000. There is no obligation. Similarly, it is the employee's option whether he wants to deduction on the his contribution only confining to the 15,000 or wants to increase. But one thing that is to be noted, it is only the myth. Employee is going to suffer because of the increase of the basic, which is only myth. Rather, I can say that employee is going to be benefited. The thing is that his savings would increase, as we have explained in the other benefits. His savings would increase, and that is really employee is going to be benefited. As against earlier 30% or 30,000 rupees, where the PF contribution is there now, though the take-home salary is reduced, so slightly about 4,000 and 4,800 and all, but the savings are increasing. The savings are increasing. So employee, there is no loss at all. Another thing is that even that if he doesn't want, we see the take-home pay should not be less than so amount. So he can confine himself to the 15,000. He can ask the employer also to confine for the contribution in respect of up to 15,000, because up to 15,000 is mandatory PF contribution. It is obligation, legal obligation on the father. Above 15,000 basic contribution by the employer is not mandatory, it is voluntary. If the employer wishes so, he can contribute. If the employer doesn't want, he need not contribute. It is purely voluntary. Another thing is that I keep getting the queries. Suppose, say for example, if the employee, suppose for example, if the employer is already contributing over and above 15,000 on the actual basis, say might be 40,000 rupees, might be 50,000 rupees or whatever it is. If he is in fact Sir, yeah. No, because that messages what they are putting in the chat box are displaying, and for my presentation it is. Can you just yes one? Yeah, and I will cover all the questions. The question can be put after completion of my session also. I will cover all your doubts. And now coming to the issue that it is the suppose in the event if the employer is contributing, say on exact 30,000, here is the case study what we are given, and tomorrow the employer wants to reduce it to 15,000 as it is mandatory. Does the employer need to take permission from the employee? Does the employer need to take permission from the department? Is there any violation that would be? No, absolutely. It is even without any permission, even without any intimation or information, it is employer's choice. Beyond 15,000 basic contribution of PF, beyond 15,000 is employer's choice. Employer's choice under the exclusive domain. That's what the Supreme Court in unequivocal terms held, that it is the employer's choice. Now I think it is clear. And when it comes to the gratuity, we deal with about the gratuity, we deal with about the bonus. Next slide. Mr. Govind, I'm going slow, no? Are you able? I'm still fast. Shall I reduce my this thing?
So I can understand things clearly, but
Yeah.
if audience can write down on the chat box if they want Mr. Murthy to be a little
Yes.
slow. But Mr. Murthy, I was thinking that we can stick to this slide for a while, as this slide has triggered a lot of questions already, and I think you have
Yeah.
answered few of them. So I was thinking maybe we can take some of the questions up front, and I'll be stopping my screen for a while. So the question which we have received is, which allowance will exclude if we will put 50% or more basic and DF for CTC? So would you like to answer that first?
No, earlier there is a ambiguity in respect of the basic, and even if you put basic as 30% or 20% or anything, and certain other allowances is to attract PF contribution as per the judgment of the Supreme Court, that is cleared. Now, there is no such thing. Whatever name you put it, from out of the total gross salary, say for example 1 lakh, as we have given the case study, in whatever name you call it, whatever nomenclature you use it for the payment, and 50% of the gross is treated as basic.
Great. I think you have already answered a question which we received on Facebook Live as well. And the question was, there's a confusion whether 50% has to be basic plus DA. But what we hear from you is, irrespective, it has to be 50% of the gross salary to be considered as the wages for that. Great. This is a question many people normally ask, that is this law into force? I know that it was expected to get in force from April 1st.
Not April 1st, because they have yet to notify the date of implementation. Everything is finalized. Only the government has to notify the date of implementation and publish it in the Gazette. Only from that date it would be applicable.
Okay, great. And then there is a question, as per the Minimum Wage Act, if basic plus VDA is 11,562, whether can we still bifurcate it into 51% and 49% allowance?
No, now what they said is that under the Minimum Wages Act, what they said is earlier HRA was part of the Minimum Wage Act. Now under the new wage code, the definition of minimum wage, HRA is excluded from the definition of minimum wage. Wage under the minimum wage. So HRA doesn't come. So normally the basic and VDA has to be, you cannot. Earlier what they used to do is that, of course, if any employer is paying more than the minimum wage, say for example, the minimum wage has been prescribed by the local respective state government. When it comes to the minimum wage, I thought of explaining, I would explain here itself. And the central government will now from time to time decide the minimum floor wage. The state governments, when they notify their wages, the wages that are being notified by to be notified by the state government, in no way less than be the minimum floor wage that has been fixed by the central government. Earlier there was No, presently there is no such thing. The state government can fix its own, central government can fix its own, and other things. And suppose if the employer is paying more than the minimum wage, the over and above part, salary part of the over and above minimum wage can be bifurcated to any sort of allowances. But that is why, because the Supreme Court also said that the employer who is paying more than minimum wage, that is fair wage and living wage, is not legally obliged to pay variable DNS. You got to pay
Yeah.
VD, yes.
And I think we are going to cover that in our upcoming session because we have a complete presentation on minimum wages. So we'll have more insight on that. The audience is also asking whether we will send the PPT after the event. Yes, we can definitely share that. I would request Payal to make the arrangement and share it in WhatsApp groups and also email IDs we have. Well, that's an interesting one. Even after 50% of the basic, if the total other allowance exceeds 50%, then do we need to further increase the basic? Yeah, I think, okay, Mr. Radhakrishnan, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, the thing is that even if the basic is 50%, the other allowances, they need not be taken into towards the part of the basic. 50% only is the basic. If I understand the question rightly, what had been put.
Okay. All right. So I think there are more questions coming up. We can take it up later, and I would go back to our presentation, and I will share my screen one more time, and we can begin from here. I'm moving to the next slide, and over to you, sir.
This is also I covered at the beginning itself that here all the people, any person, wherever there is employer and employee, employer and workman relationship that exists between the management and such worker or the employee is an employee, and of whichever cadre category and the designation is applied. Next. This is also self-explanatory, and we can go to the next session, the next slide. And now what you got to notice in this new code is that in every earlier there used to be manager can be the occupier in some other acts. Only under the Factories Act, only the board of director can only be the occupier. The director who is on the board or the founder or whoever is, and only can be nominated as an occupier, and the manager is the one who is the CEO. But under different acts like the Shops and Establishment Act, that used to be a different definition, and the Payment of Wages Act, that used to be a different definition. From act to act, it used to differ. Now, mostly under the new code, what they have followed is the employer is the one who has been notified as an occupier under the Factories Act. To simplify it, so here invariably only the founder directors, not the founder director, whoever is the director, board of directors. One of the board of directors who is having control only can be appointed, and an employee director also cannot be appointed as an occupier, and they shall alone be responsible for enforcement. They shall alone be responsible for implementation of the act and to follow the provisions under that. Next slide. This is also we have discussed. Inspector is not only an inspector, he is also facilitator to guide the employer and as well as the employee in respect of implementation of the act. Next slide. So this is the wage period can be on the daily basis, it can be on the weekly basis, it can be on the fortnightly basis, it can be on the monthly basis. If it happens to be the monthly basis, it has to be paid before 7th of the succeeding month. That's what. And the payment has to be made only through bank, and now the cash payments will not be entertained and be considered for the purpose of implementation. Enforcement authorities won't consider. Everything has to be digital, online, or it has to be payment by way of check or directly crediting to the bank. Yes. Next. And as regards the claims, it was there earlier. Whatever is there in the present, future also, in the new code also the same thing. In the present act also under the Payment of Wages Act, either the employee can file a claim or the trade union representing the employee also can file a claim, or the inspector also can file a claim in respect of the claims that are to be given to the employee. That is there. Limitation presently is the 6 months. Now that has been extended to 1 year, and in certain of the cases it is 1 year. That will be the same for this thing as far as filing as the concern. And appeals has to be filed within 90 days. If you are aggrieved by the order passed by the Payment of Authority under the Payment of Wages Act, you have to prepare an appeal within 90 days. Next. Earlier, there used to be either penalty or imprisonment or both, depending if it is a continuation of offense and once pleaded guilty, not implemented, second time prosecuted for the very same offense, that will be treated as continuous offense. When it is a continuous offense, there was an imprisonment and besides the penalty or both. When it was the first offense, there used to be only a penalty. Now, what they said is that earlier only the court got the power to impose the penalty, or imprisonment also only the court got power. Now the powers are conferred with the officials as has been nominated by the respective state governments in this aspect. They have the right to compound the offense. To put it simply, I can say a traffic challan. Earlier, the thing is that good old days one has to go before the magistrate and make the payment. Now you can even pay to the constable or online, where it is compounded right on the time. At that point of time itself, when you are caught for any traffic violation, that is compounding, it is called as. And it can be compounded and the department would collect. But the penalties are heavy. They have increased the penalties. This is the thing, object of the. And the record has to be maintained, and the record has to be maintained electronically also. Now the hard copies and all not required to be maintained. And there is also, because recently this AP government is brought a notification where the displays under the Payment of Gratuity Act or POSH Act or the Minimum Wages Act, you have to display the Shops and Establishment Act, you have to display the abstracts of the acts for the purpose of bringing awareness to the employees. Now that has been digitalized, you can communicate through intra-mail to the employees. Otherwise, if you start affixing these abstracts, the whole wall of the front office of the organization will be fully of the abstracts only, nothing fine. And now the government also became smart because of the technology, and they said now you can electronically communicate the policies and other things are. And when it comes to the accuracy of balance sheet, earlier it is not clearly defined. Normally under the Payment of Bonus Act, the balance sheet is always linked because payment of bonus is linked to the profitability of the organization, profit of the organization. And whether the balance sheet so produced by the employer is authenticated or not, whether a separate balance sheet is produced before the labor department just for the evasion of bonus or the benefit. Now the government, because what they said is that once a balance sheet is certified by the chartered accountant, then it is authenticated. Why? Because any violation or anything, manipulation or mismanagement in the bar, chartered accountant would be held responsible because he got his code of conduct as for the Institute of Chartered Accountants, like the advocates got the bar council. So the chartered accountants also won't violate because it is going to affect their certificate of practice. So that should be treated as the thing. That is the one. Yes, sir. And the inquiry of offenses. Offenses can be compounded. Certain offenses can be only has to be sued if it is a continuous offense. It has to go before the magistrate, and the different state government are notified different officers at the authority for prosecuting or for adjudication of these offenses. And what they said is that it should not be below the rank of Under Secretary to the Government of India or an officer equivalent to rank. Suppose if any state government has to appoint the appropriate authority, such appropriate officer should not be below the rank of Under Secretary to the State Government of India are equal rank in the state government. That is what they say, that this code empowers employee and trade. This is important to note. The third one, please make note of it. It is the sea change. Criminal complaints. This code empowers employee and trade unions to file criminal complaints directly against the employer, which the old laws did not provide. I would once again explain to you very slowly, make note of it, which is very important, that earlier in the present act, if at all there is any violation of the act, if the employee wants to prosecute the employer, he has to make an application to the Labor Department. Labor Department would examine it, that complaint they would examine it. They would call an explanation from the employer, and after calling for an explanation from the employer, if they feel that the violation has not been complied with it, then they will, only the department got right to prosecute. Now that has been done away. Employee can directly prosecute the employer. Trade union can directly prosecute. Whereas similar such right has not been conferred with the employer. Suppose in the event, if the employee violates any of the provisions of the law, if the employer wants to prosecute him, he can't. He only has to go through the department. And this is a thing where I have asked one of the author to this labor codes, the central government, while drafting it in Delhi, and he was one of the co-speaker with me in one of the seminars. I asked, why have you put it? Where is the equality? The violation of equality clause. Then he said that the trade unions are complaining against the labor department that they are not acting upon. That is why we are given powers to them directly to prosecute. But what about the employer would have given the similar opportunity? Because the employers did not make represent, they had to ask, we would have considered this is the thing. But it is very dangerous sign. Suppose earlier the settlement is, if it has to be under the new wage code, the settlement, final F&F settlement has to be done within 3 days. Unlike earlier days, you can't go on postpone. If it is not, then employee can directly go to the criminal court and file a prosecution. And if the wage to be paid by 7, if it is not paid, if you have 100 employees can file individual complaints against the employer. So the employer has to be mostly in the criminal court than anywhere else and may not find time to come to office. If 100 employees for the same cause file different complaints. So we have to be cautious. That way you should be aware of the law. When you are aware of the law, you will be able to mitigate the litigation. And once if you land into the litigation, it is a speculation without knowing the destination. So better implement and ensure 100% implement. Next slide.
Sir, before we go to the minimum wages,
Yes.
and I think I just wanted to take a pause here and take a couple of questions which are coming up. I would like to try something new with the audience. So far, I'm reading their question. What I can ask everybody is to raise your hand through the Zoom app. And what I will do is try to call you out. You can unmute yourself and then speak up. And I can do it one by one. I would request our audience to be disciplined here because multiple people speaking may ruin this. But just to make sure that till the time people are raising their hand, wow, that the criminal complaint is something which I think the employer has to be really worried about. And it comes to the HR and legal department of the company to make sure that we are not putting our employer in this situation. So I think that's something to watch. Second, I think you emphasized a lot on various kind of compliance, the ease of compliance and things like that. And I kept hearing from people that whether with this change, where we are collaborating all those 44 different kind of laws in these 4 codes, is this going to increase the compliance burden on the employer? Is it going to reduce? What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
It is simplified. Compliance is simplified. Only thing is that we must have the clear approach in respect of complying it diligently, and it is not much complicated. It is simplified. It is easy. Only one need to have the checklist and has to go on complying it. Another thing employee has to look into it. It is not only the occupier, the owner of the organization to be prosecuted. Manager also may be prosecuted. And
Okay.
if the occupier is prosecuted, no problem. It is his company. I don't say it is not a problem. It is his company. You would be able to defend. Unfortunately, if the manager is prosecuted for better prospects, he wants to leave the employment because the case won't leave him. In whichever company, he has to still attend. He can't be replaced in the criminal case. So there will be an attachment after detachment, so that you have to be very careful. And 100%, we should not think that the occupier is going to be prosecuted. Suppose by any chance, if you are notified as a manager, and if you are put as an accused, co-accused along with the occupier, and in the courts, it will take 4 long years, 5 long years. Once if you leave the organization, also you still have to attend this case. There will be
That's
an
scary.
attachment after detachment. You have to be cautious.
That's scary. I'm sure for many of people on this call,
Because mostly in the
yeah.
practice that it happens, the plant head, being the manager, is normally put as an accused, and he leaves the organization. Even if he wants to leave, he can't leave. Because the court has fixed the legal bondage between the employer and the CEO.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I hope that the compliances will go down. I hope that this criminal clause will not demean the main purpose of the government to come
Yes.
up with this reform. So we'll take
Even
some
still,
questions.
the employers also can make representation to the employers organization like FICCI, Confederation of Indian Industry, and other. Yes.
Great. So we'll take some questions, sir, and we can start with Lakshmi. Lakshmi, you can unmute yourself and you can ask question either in English or Hindi. Up to you.
Good morning,
Be
sir.
precise. Be precise. Okay.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, regarding the PF, you said that 50% basic is has to go from the fixed pay, right? Now, currently, for example, we are paying PF on let's say 20,000, which is above the ceiling limit. Now, because of this new rule, can we decrease it to the ceiling limit 15,000, or we should continue with the 20,000 because there is a lot of gap in it?
Yes, Lakshmi, I got it, and it can be decreased to that of only 15,000. 15,000 is mandatory. Above 15,000 is voluntary. It is your choice. Employer, you can decrease it.
Okay, sir. Because in the PF department, they said once we increase it, we're not supposed to decrease the contribution.
No. That is only in respect of the 15,000. If you can't contribute, you can't reduce below 15,000. This thing, but above 15,000, be sure, take it granted. I was safe. The Supreme Court judgment, you have every right to reduce it, right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for being precise. Pradeep, you are next. And after that, Bharti.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, as per new wage code, you said FNF need to be settled within 5 days from the last working day. If there is any outstanding issues, still employer is liable to settle that within 5 working days. Also for gratuity, once it is applied, it will take some time with the LIC department. That also need to be taken care.
Yeah, I got your point. Account settlement is the thing where there is an outstanding, whether the performance is outstanding or not. If the payment is outstanding, either by the employee to the organization or by the organization to the employee, when you are making a F&F settlement, you would be adjusting the payments what are to be the outstanding. And if we got to still pay you, you show a debit balance. If you got to pay him, you show a credit balance. But that F&F statement has to be clearly be communicated within 3 days that this is what you got to get it, this is what you got to give it. So this is the thing. Doesn't mean that you have to make payment and wait for your outstanding amount where you can't. The Act did not say that you have no right to. Only the thing gratuity cannot be touched. But recently the Supreme Court said even you can adjust against the gratuity too. Right? Next.
That's a good clarification and a great question. Thank you, Pradeep. Bharti, you are up, and after that, Seema Day.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Very good morning. So my question is regarding the variable pay. I am from an IT background, so want to understand whether the performance incentive will be included in the definition of wage, because there is a lot of noise around that area. And also, if you could throw some light on overtime, it will be of real help, sir.
Yeah, overtime is the double the ordinary wages that has to be paid. Overtime, in fact, has to be paid on the gross wage, not on the basic wage. Mostly the employers are under the myth that it has to be paid on the basic wage. Whenever they ask and I clarify, they say that my neighbor is paying on the basic, why can't I pay on the basic? Neighbor is not a parameter and is not the law. And what is there in the law is the law, and you have to pay. It hardly makes any difference for you in respect of overtime. Right. Next question is in respect of payment of bonus, in respect of payment of gratuity, in respect of payment of PF, and even if the incentive has to be added in the total payment or not is to be another question. Say, for example, 1 lakh is the thing. There is a variable pay performance incentive paid once in a year, not a monthly. Whether that incentive would be added to this wage and can make 50%, or the monthly wage has to be paid 50%. Incentive when you are paying not monthly as an annual this thing, a single payment, that will not be treated as the wage for the purpose of PF contribution or for the purpose of bonus contribution or whatever it is, gratuity. Am I clear? Is it? Is it okay?
I think so.
Imade.
Thank you, Bharti.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning.
Sir, actually, I have one question. That is, right now, basic is 50% of CTC. So, can you please explain ki, with the CTC, we are going to add PF employee and employer's contribution both, or it is exempted? That means it is the CTC.
The CTC employee contributions you should not put it. Only employer
Employer contribution.
That CTC is a different concept and the total wage is a different concept. Actually, what is the wage you are giving it? And you cannot add this employer's contribution also in the CTC is a different concept, cost to the company. When you are fixing the wage to the employee, if it is a 1 lakh rupees salary, you might be for working out your cost, you might be putting that employer contribution. But when it has to be bifurcated, it need not be put like that. Suppose if you are paying 60,000 rupees, take that 60 only. Don't add this employer contribution and make that total 50 out of that total.
Okay. So we can consider it from gross. That is basic, DA, any other.
Don't add contributions. If you add contributions, the liability would increase.
Okay.
Contribution is not a wage. You look into the definition of wage. This contribution is exempted from the definition of wage.
Okay. Sir, another one question, small question, that is, right now we are paying ESIC on gross.
Yes.
But after changing this code, we will be paying ESIC on basic or?
No, not at all. There is no impact on change in respect of the ESIC. It will be continued to be on the gross.
On gross. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next.
Thank you, Seema. Apna Pariga, you are next. And after that, Himanshu Desai.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Whether the incentives to be, if the incentives are paid monthly, whether such incentive is part of the wage or not. Is it your question?
Sir, my question is little different, sir. Is that we are paying daily wages to laborers, and it's like a basic and DA only in daily wages, sir, as per minimum wages. So is it okay that basic and DA, whatever comes, like for example, for per day 500 rupees. So if we are paying 500 rupees to employee labor, is it okay as per the new code, or we need to bifurcate?
The basic and DA is part of the minimum wage. If you are paying that wage 500 in form of basic and DA, you are complying with the minimum wage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Himanshu, you are next. After that, Shri Devas.
Be faster. We have to cover many slides.
Yeah. Hello, sir. I have two questions. One question is that after implementing the new wage code, ex-employee's salary is increasing to the, ex-employee's basic is increasing beyond the PF ceiling limit. In that case, can we take a decision to stop the PF deduction by taking an undertaking from the employee?
I request the participant to participate because this question has already been raised and has been answered. And the thing is that up to 15,000 is obligatory, above 15,000 is voluntary. If you want, you can reduce it. I have already answered. And if we make note of it when it was answered, we would be giving chance to many more participants or new persons.
No, sir. My question is whether we can stop deducting the PF after 15,000 or we should keep deducting up to 15,000.
You can stop. You can beyond 15,000. You can stop. Up to 15,000 is mandatory.
Okay, and if in case employee is insisting that I want to deduct the PF from my basic salary, whatever it is.
It is up
maybe
to him. You need not match it. Up to 15,000, you got to match it.
No, sir. My question is, can we convert him into voluntary PF, VPF in place of EPF?
No, I couldn't get what is that?
Sir, if an employee is insisting to deduct his PF, whether his basic is increased from 15,000 or more, in that case, can we convert his PF deduction into VPF, that is voluntary PF? In that case, employer does not have to pay the contribution.
Yes, you can.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir.
All right, Srinath, you are next. After that, Piyush.
Sir, good morning to all.
Yes.
My question is whether we have to bifurcate the minimum wages of contract.
I'm not able to hear.
Sir, can we bifurcate the minimum wages to basic and HRA as per new wage code?
No, you can't. HRA is excluded from the definition of wage. So the HRA is not part of the minimum wage. Basic and TA only is the minimum wage. Right.
Basic and TA. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Yes, sir. Next.
Piyush, you are next and you're the last. And then maybe I can stop. But thank you everybody for being disciplined and asking your questions. So Piyush, you can ask your question.
Sir, my question is with regard to leave encashment. Will the wage code have any impact on the leave encashment? Like most of the employers are paying it on basic salary. So will this code have any impact?
Now, earlier the Payment of Wages Act, only limited employees are covered, sir, and that is leave encashment is not only under the Payment of Wages, it is under the Shops and Establishment Act. It is dealt with mostly for the IT, ITES, and the factories. It is under the Factories Act. The leave encashment is only at the severance of employment, not while in employment. Under the Shops and Establishment Act, even in during the employment, that apart you would be giving the policy. So the statutory leave encashment is concerned, it has to be on the total gross wage, not on the basic wage. Over and above the statutory leave, if you are giving any extra leaves, the encashment of that leave is between you and the employee, how you negotiate your terms in the contract. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, everybody. And I'll get back again. Thank you for lowering your hands on the Zoom app. I will come again and you can raise your hands again.
If it is you, we can clarify. Right. Okay.
I think people have already lowered their hands. So we'll come again. We have enough time. We have around 20-25 minutes.
Yes.
So I'll go back to the presentation here.
Minimum wage.
Over to you.
Yes, sir. Now, this has already been explained. Earlier, HRA was included in the definition of minimum wage. Now, the HRA is excluded in the definition of wages. And now, those payments made under the heads of basic wage, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance fall within the definition of wage. And any other allowance paid with any other nomenclature or under any other head shall not be the part of the minimum wage. That has to be noted. Now, you also see that HRA is like HRA, conveyance allowance, uniform allowance, education allowance do not fall within the definition of wages at all. And as such, the allowance and retaining allowance only will be the part of it. Basic wage, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance only part of the minimum wages. And this increases the PF contribution. Earlier, what they used to do is minimum wage, HRA was part of the minimum wage. They used to put that as the HRA slightly pay more. Now, because it is not part of minimum wage, you pay it in the form of PD, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance, PF contribution increases. Next, sir. This also explained the central government would fix the minimum floor wage from time to time. The wage so fixed by the state government should not be less than the minimum floor wage. Yes. And earlier, another thing what you got to make note is earlier under the minimum wage side, for every kind of establishment, for every kind of business, there used to be separate GOs. Fixing the minimum wages for beverages industry, fixing minimum wages for IT, ITES, fixing minimum wages for the engineering and it. Now it is a common. Minimum wage is a common, and there is no bringing the establishments under the schedule. It is applicable to all establishments. Next. This is the floor wage. This is once in 5 years you have to increase the government would be increasing it, and the cost of living will be taking from time to time, and it can be the piece rate. Even in the piece rate, you have to take the minimum wage as a parameter. Next. This explained once in 5 years the minimum wages would be revised. Next, sir. And until a revision, the VDA will take care of variable dearness allowance, which is now the points differ basing on the consumer price index, will take care of the increase in the cost of living. Now the payment of bonus. Yes. Next slide. Where 20 or more employees. Initially, at the beginning, we have discussed that as per the wage under the new wage code, for the other 3 Equal Remuneration Act and the Payment of Wages Act and the Gratuity Act, the threshold is not there. Only under the payment of bonus, there is a threshold. Only it is applicable to such establishment where the employees are more than 20. 20 or more. More than 20 is different, 20 or more is different. The 20 or more means the moment you cross 19, it is applicable. And more than 20 means the moment you touch 21, it is applicable. That is the thin difference that has to be looked into. And the moment one crosses the 19 limit, that is applicable. And the bonus once applies, you are all very well aware, continues to apply irrespective of the profit, whether you are making profit, whether there is set on available or not. The minimum statutory bonus of 8.33 to be paid. And the first 5 years, there is an exemption. You have the infancy protection. And after 5 years, the 6th financial year has to be paid the 7th financial year. That is the thing. Out of first 5 years, infancy protection, in whichever year the company makes profit, that year only you got to pay the bonus. In the subsequent years, if you don't make profit, you need not pay. But this is only up to 5 years. Once if the establishment crosses 5 years, the business operations, and 6th year you have to pay. In 7th year, even if there is no profit also, there is no available allocable surplus or set on also, till you are liable. Next. Any employee who works for 30 days in a financial year is eligible for bonus. Some people ask whether casual is entitled. Some people ask whether temporary employee is entitled or a fixed term employee is entitled or such thing. Any employee for that matter, whoever works for 30 days in a financial year is applicable. Why bonus is applicable and you need to pay. And the bonus has to be paid only by way of crediting the amount in the plan, and no currency payment is accepted. You are all aware this 8.33 is the minimum bonus, and the calculation of set on allocable surplus set off is there that has to be made as per the list that is envisaged under the Payment of Bonus Act. And suppose in the event if you are having establishment of various departments, one in Delhi, the other one in Pune, the other one is Gurgaon, or the other one is Bangalore or Hyderabad, if you maintain a separate balance sheet for each of the establishment, the percentage can be decided and be paid basing on the balance sheets of the respective units. If you don't have a separate balance sheet, whatever you pay to, you have to pay the similar percentage of bonus to one and all on the basis of the overall profit. Next. This is the infancy protection, 5 years is available. And in these 5 years, whichever year you make the profit, you got to pay. In the other year, you need not pay if you don't make the profit. That is only up to infancy protection of 5 years. And once if you cross the 5 years, the fancy of infancy would be over, and you have to keep paying irrespective of allocable surplus or not. Next. This is the equal remuneration. Next. Yeah. You please make note. Everybody pay attention to this. Manufacturing as well as IT. In the manufacturing, there will be a contract labor working on various areas, and they are used on the core area. They will be operating the machine, and they can say that the regular employee who is operating the machine as an operator, and he should be paid on par with that operator. That is one aspect. When it comes to the IT, you might be questioning, we are all paid well and we pay higher wages. And then is it applicable to the IT? Yeah, IT. In the IT, what will happen is there will be certain employees directly employed by the organization. There will be certain employees recruited by the recruiting company and sent to your organization. And there will be certain employees of the vendor working with you on your projects and doing the job. And a similar job would be doing, is the developer on your roles, a developer on the roles of the vendor. They are doing a similar job. There is a variance in the salary. The developer of the vendor is being little differently paid as less, and your developer is being paid more. Over a period of time, you might be taking that employee of the vendor also if there is no restriction in respect of non-soliciting. Such employees who are supplied by the vendor to you, working in your establishment, along with your other developers or a programmer or whatever it is, there is a possibility claiming the similar wage and make a claim. That has to be looked into, but the similarity should be in respect of the seniority, in respect of the knowledge. You would be able to justify it, but however, you got to be cautious. Next. This is not out of the wage code, but only out of interest. I am just telling you, and this is the new concept of the gratuity. What they have said, now in the present gratuity act, only when the employee completes 5 years of service, you are liable for payment of gratuity, or if he completes 4 years, 2.8 days, also you are liable for gratuity. But under the new code, if you take any employee for a fixed term employment for 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, for such fixed term employees, you have to pay gratuity, irrespective of the thing, whether he completes 5 years or not. Because but for that, you would have continued 5 years, and you are the employer who restricted his employment to 2 years. That is why gratuity to be paid to him. That is the intention of the legislation. Next. This is the gratuity to be paid depending on that, and gratuity for the fixed term employee, increase in gratuity payment towards gratuity gets. Yeah, now the liability of the gratuity gets increased. Earlier, some 30%, 40% should be there. Now it has to be taken as 50%. Now the gratuity liability is definitely going to be increased to the employer. It is an impact on the employee, benefit to the employee. That is why mostly they say that employee is affected, take home pay. Employee in all aspects benefited by virtue of this code. That myth has to be removed from the mind that employees only the savings are increased. Present take home pay may get reduced, but that gets compensated in a better way by way of savings. Next, sir. Yes, this is the thing that what you got to notify, especially IT, ITES and service sector. Now the central government has brought the standing orders. They have also published the draft standing orders shortly or sooner or later. They would publish the final. Now there is a standing order. Earlier it was applicable to only industrial establishment. Now it is standing orders are brought for the IT, ITES, where any company employs more than 300 employees, any IT, ITES or service sector, they got to go for certification of standing orders, or they can adopt the standing order that have been framed by the central government. And where you got to remove the employees, you got to follow strictly the provisions of the standing order, and you cannot adopt. Mostly it happening in most of the cases in the labor courts. I find the cases from IT, ITES is pertaining to the PIP, performance improvement plan, where the employee comes under the definition of workman. The employee comes under the definition of employee under the ID Act, under the new IR code also. The definition is more or less similar. You do the counseling once or twice and again give time. If it doesn't, you will say that I am terminating you by giving 1 month notice. They don't give notice. Again, they say that in case of performance issue, no notice to be given. कल से नया आने का, वो कल से नया आने का नहीं चलेगा. That is what otherwise I always say PPFT scheme, place papers or face termination. No, he may face termination, but the employer got to face the litigation after the termination. So you got to follow the procedure as envisaged under the standing order, even in case of PIP issues, right? Yes, Govindji. Yeah. Still we have time and we can take questions.
Yeah, and I would say that if you have more questions in this presentation, you will have Mr. Radhakrishna Murthy's contact details, and you can reach out to him for any legal advice on behalf of your organization. Yes, sir, we do have a lot of questions, and I could already see people have raised their hands. But let me take this opportunity to ask this question to you. We have been talking a lot from an employee perspective in this whole conversation. And when I hear from an employer perspective, and the question which comes to our mind is that many people here are responsible to represent their employer in this call and also in their organization. And they are worrying that how it's going to impact us financially. The owner of the organization, the board of the organization, depending upon which organization you're working with, is interested to know what will be the impact on us, whether if the 12% of PF increase on employer or increase in the gratuity, how much impact it's going to make to me, and should I take all this liability, or is there any way by which we can mitigate this liability? And I'm sure you might be getting these questions from your client as well every single time.
Yes, Mr. Govind.
So,
yeah, it is the right question at the right time, and this is the financially rending. HR professionals would be asked by the employers to make the budget for the next year in respect of the HR and in respect of the payment, compensation, benefits, salaries, and other things. There you got to take load into what would be the impact, cost impact on the employer in respect of this new wage codes. Whether what we discussed is going to be there, or will there be any changes and other things? There will not be any changes, only the date of implementation to be notified. And now the gratuity liability would definitely be increased. When you are working out CTC, the gratuity has to be revised basing on what is the present basic, and after the new wage code, what would be the basic, and what is the difference between the present basic and the new basic, and what would be the difference in calculation of gratuity. That has to be looked into it. And the bonus is not having much impact because whose basic is more than 21,000 rupees, the bonus act doesn't apply. But the gratuity, there is no salary ceiling limit as such. It is applicable to all the employees that will be there. And the leave encashment, when it is talked about on the gross salary, makes no difference in respect of the leaves that are encashed as per the contract between employer and employee out of the contractual obligation, but not out of the statutory obligation. That has to be looked into. But for that, it will not have an impact. And another thing is that for every law, there is a flaw. There can't be law without flaw. And the employers also may be thinking that how to reduce any other better way to plan. You can't say evasion. Somebody asked, you are evading tax, the other one says, I am planning tax. It is all different from the perception. Different from perception. Another aspect that is available to the employers also. Of course, I don't suggest it, but the alternative where the employers beyond paying capacity is there. Survival of the organization is also important equally, besides the survival of the employee, because the employment of employee exists only when the organization exists. So the survival of the organization also has to be looked into. So the incentives or performance pay or performance bonus or whatever it is paid, instead of adding it to the monthly salary, let it be as an annual payment.
Yeah.
And rewarding, awarding, or even if you are giving increment instead of adding to the salary, you can pay it as a performance bonus, a lump sum amount. Still, you would be able to plan it to a certain extent. But by the same time, it should not be employee also. Employee satisfaction is also important, because you should be the inner winner of the employee, not outer winner. If you are an outer winner of the employee will win over some employment and he leaves.
Yeah. So I think
the problem of attrition will be there.
Yeah, and I think you said it very right. It is the right time for us to evaluate it. We have time. All the people on this call who are responsible for this, I would suggest that based on all the feedback and inputs you have received today from Mr. Murthy on PF gratuity, leave encashment, performance incentive, overtime, everything which is applicable in your organization, please come up with some liability and the increase in the liability and the cost, and maybe start having those conversations with your management in advance. Now, with that said, let me take some questions. Again, I would request, please be precise. You can use English and Hindi, whatever it is. Please do not ask the same question again, which has already been answered. So Sonal, you are first, and after that, Sachin Daga, you are next.
Yes, Sonal.
Sonal, you are
Not
on mute if
audible,
you are
your
saying
voice.
something.
She had put it on mute.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
ESIC is applicable to construction industry because already BOCW is mandatory to
It's applicable.
construction
It's
industry.
applicable. It is applicable.
Why? Because BOCW is already applicable to construction industry and all the
BOCW
benefits is covered.
BOCW doesn't cover this medical aspect, medical
Okay.
treatment for the
Okay.
family, spouse,
Mhm.
children,
Hmm.
parents.
Okay.
We should
Then
look
it's
the
not.
act from the. We should look the act from the perception of the act, not from our personal perception.
Okay.
Our notions will prevail over the provisions.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
ma'am? Right.
Yes.
Thank you, Sonal. Sachin, you are next. After that, HRM. I would request, please mute yourself.
Okay, hi, good afternoon. So one question I had might be a primitive question, but at a higher level, we many a time have certain people who are into roles like Lean Six Sigma and all that. We take them as an employee. What if I move them on to consultant role? I think in that case, this might not be applicable. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah, I got your point. What you mean to say is that instead of employee would resign from the position of the employee and take the thing, and you continue him as a consultant. Again, consultant means is a consultant works from his home, and he also works for the others. Or do you have any restrictions in the consultancy contract that he should not take up any other assignment, from any other client and other things? Because there is a judgment where they say that whatever nomenclature you use it, consultant, freelance, or whatever it is, as long as that person is working in your organization, only exclusively working for your organization, then he should be treated as an employee. The benefits of PF should be paid. Suppose if he is working for the other organization and he is free to render such consultancy to the others, then it is okay. If I answer your question, consultant is exempted, it comes a wrong definition. Because I have elaborately put it. If he is exclusively working for you, whether you call him as an employee or you call him as a consultant, still you got to extend the benefit. If he is working for the others also, then there is no problem as such. And instead of paying salary, you will be deducting TDS and you would be raising an invoice, you would be registered as a vendor, you would develop a vendor code, so on and so forth. But this objective, this is must that you should be rendering service to the others too. And you should not have such clauses in the consultancy contract. You should report at 9, leave at 5, and you are having this many holidays. All terms remain same. I've seen many contracts, such things. Only thing, the word employee is replaced with the consultant. That doesn't work.
That's a good question and a very good clarification. HRM, you're up, and after that, Meghna Sipana.
Yes, Mr. Meghna, tell me.
No, it's HRM first, and then Meghna Sipana.
Yes, yes, sir.
HRM, you are on mute. Can you speak? Okay, Meghana Sipana, you can ask your question. Yeah.
HRM is muted.
Yeah. Sir, good morning, sir.
Meghna, yes.
Yeah, good morning. Sir, I have
Very
small
good
doubt.
morning.
Yeah. See, for PF 15,000 is the limit. It's okay. But beyond 15,000 rupees, can we, at the option of the employer, can we give that option for employees? For some of the employees, we can cover. For some of the employees, we cannot cover. Can we do that, sir? After 15 years, beyond 15 years, sorry, beyond 15,000 rupees.
I got your point, and here the question is whether reduction beyond 50,000 reduction contribution is permissible or not, the earlier question. Now you have put it a question differently, where there are employees drawing more than 15,000 basic. For some of them you want to extend the PF benefit, some of them you don't want to extend.
Yes,
Whether
sir.
this anomaly would lead to violation or not.
Yes, yes.
This is what. No, it is all employment contract. You must have a clear-cut contract. It's the demand and supply.
Sorry, sir. I didn't get you, sir.
Yeah, you should have a different contract when you are negotiating the CTC. When you put it, if the department or enforcement asks you, you can say that up to 15,000 is your obligation. Beyond 15,000, it is as per the terms of contract. With that employee, there is no such term. I agreed with this employee. I agreed. I am paying. But you must have a document to justify it.
Yes, yes. Okay, sir.
Justice not only be done, it should seem to have been done. Discrimination also should be justified.
Yeah.
If you fail to justify, it is a discrimination.
Yeah, got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right,
Sir,
right.
sir, one more clarification, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding bonus, that set on amount, how long we can keep this at a set on, sir?
Set on will be on and on until unless it is set off.
So it's no limit for that?
No limit.
Oh. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I have an interesting question. It says in this new wage code, are we planning to reduce the PF contribution to 10% from 12%?
No, there is no such thing. Presently, there is 12%, and we are not the people to plan it. The government has to change the act. Amendment has to be brought. It is 12%. But on the other hand, there is a grave point talk. What they say is that this 15 to be increased to that of 21, make on par with the ESI wage.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Raghindra Prasad, you are next. You can ask your question. After that, Pradeep, you are next. Mr. Nagendra Prasad, you can unmute yourself, please. I would request all the people who have raised their hands, please be ready for your turn and unmute yourself as soon as I say. Otherwise, I will have to move next. Mr. Nagendra, I can see you, but you're still mute.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Yes,
sir.
Tell me, sir.
Yeah. Sir, is there any law which stipulates leave encashment as compulsory? Because some organizations are paying, some organizations.
I got your point. Yes, under the South Indian Establishment Act, encashment of leave is compulsory. Under the Factories Act, not while in service and severance of employment, it is compulsory, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir, one more question. Sir, this central government has only notified wage code rules, but not the rules of other codes. So
They have notified. They have notified.
They have notified.
Yes, sir. Final draft also has come. Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Only date of implementation to be notified, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Nagendra. Pradeep, you can ask your question. After that, Balakrishna, you are next.
Yes, Mr. Pradeep. You got to unmute, I think.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is on bonus. On bonus eligible amount, can we offset the sales incentive or performance incentive, which is a annual variable pay? If answer is no, then what is the liability on employer if he offsets the sales incentive or performance incentive against the bonus amount?
So there is a thing called as performance bonus. When you are paying in lieu of statutory bonus, a performance bonus, that you got to notify it, right? Otherwise, if you are paying without notifying it, simply paying statutory bonus, this performance bonus shall not be treated as a statutory bonus and it cannot be set off against the liability of the statutory bonus.
Thank you. Mr. Balakrishna, you are next. After that, Ankit, and I'll take last question from Yudhu Onda. That's the three people I'll take. Balakrishna, you can ask your question.
Not audible, sir. You have to unmute. Due to COVID situation and financial position, we hold leave encashment. Is it permitted?
Hello.
No, if it is under the shops and establishment, because your establishment is covered under that, it is not permitted, sir. You have to encash it. They have not given any exemption because of the COVID. Next, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are hearing you.
Yes, my question is on FT, fixed term employment.
Now, tell me.
Shall we take in a lower position in fixed term?
In any position, right from the workman to the general manager, anybody who wants, he can go for the fixed term employment, right?
What after extension? What happens, sir? Once.
Why are you extending? You are giving it a fixed term. If you want to extend again, you have to give it. First, you got to settle it, and then you got to give a fresh, or else you have to renew it. Renew means when you are renewing, service put in earlier shall be counted for the purpose of terminal benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ankit, you're next.
His medical examination is applicable on the employees who have attached the age of 40 years. That is a different act under the Practice Act. It is there. Social Security. This is the thing. Safety, occupation, and other new code. Yes, sir.
Ankit, was this your question or you wanted to ask a different question?
OT eligibility. Everybody is eligible. Whoever works for more than 8 hours a day and 48 hours in a week.
I can take only one question. I think I promised Yedu Pondalu to take the last question. Can you just unmute yourself? Rest everybody.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. My two questions. One is all employees should be paid leave encashment, irrespective of workman and employee or not?
No, only the Shops and Establishment Act, only employee whoever comes under the employee definition, not discharging the supervisory and managerial functions are covered. And the management category is not covered. It is only as per the contract, employment contract that is to be.
I mean, in our office, for example, office managers are working, and are they payable as they are working under?
No, it all depends on your employment terms and conditions.
Okay, sir. My next question is, sir, PF and ESC is applicable for the. Hello.
Tell me, sir.
My next question is, PF and ESI is applicable for the employees for how many days of minimum work?
No, even if they work day one, only 1 day, 2 hours. When you make the payment of wages, they are eligible for that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Radhakrishnan, AP this side.
Sorry, guys, we cannot take any more questions. We are already up to time right now. You can, as I said, you already have Mr. Radhakrishna's numbers. We will send it through our presentation. With that said, thank you, sir. Let me just move on back to our host, Shefali. Shefali, over to you.
Thank you so much, Govind. I think a very fruitful discussion with our honorable speaker also, and our participants with the questions coming up. I can relate to that. We're enjoying the session to the fullest, and I'm sure they are already prepared for April onwards. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us.
Thank you very much for the HR Success Talk to you, Govind, and your team. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And I would say that there are a lot of questions already floating around on the chat box, and I know a lot of people wanted to ask. But sorry, we cannot take more questions.